Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our MCPHS Alumni panel. My name is Hannah Mackey, Assistant Director of Admission here at Massachusetts College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences. For those of you who have been recently admitted to MCPHS, congratulations on your admission to the university. We're so excited for you. And for those of you who are just kind of exploring MCPHS and what we have to offer, we're so excited for today's panel. We have some amazing MCPHS alumni who are going to help us understand not only what they do in their current roles in their healthcare careers, but also sort of walk us through how they got into healthcare in the first place and specifically how MCPHS helped prepare them for those next steps in their journey. So thank you all again. Thank you to our panelists and alumni for being here. Let's start off with some introductions. So if you could all share your name, job title, where you work, and when you graduated from MCPHS, that would be great. Kaitlin, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, my name is Kaitlin. I'm a Doctor of Pharmacy grad from the year 2016. I currently work in community pharmacy for Walmart in New Hampshire.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Shweta, do you want to continue?
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Shweta. So currently right now I'm a fourth year medical student, so my last year in med school, and I graduated MCPHS in 2020.
Fantastic, thank you. And then Alim.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alim. I'm a physician associate. I work in Central California right now, and I graduated in 2021.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Super excited to chat with you guys tonight and just learn a little bit more about your journeys. So to kind of start off, can each of you sort of walk us through what your workday looks like on a day-to-day basis? What does your job entail? What are you doing? I think that would give our students kind of some insight into what specifics you're sort of going into, especially for your particular field. So Kaitlin, do you want to start us off with that?
Sure. So community pharmacy, or other people refer to it as retail pharmacy, our job is pretty much very front-facing with patients and communities. I work in a highly vacation area in New Hampshire, so I see all kinds of people all day long, children all the way up to elderly. I kind of almost feel like a more accessible primary care provider on a day-to-day basis. Talk to a lot of patients, counsel patients, tell them if they need to go see a doctor or try to help them self-treat at home. Also answer phones, check prescriptions, call doctors, kind of be the in-between between the doctor's orders and the patient getting it to make sure everything is safe for them to take and make sure that they understand how to take it. We also give immunizations on a daily basis. So during COVID, we gave a lot of shots. We were one of the few places that was open during the entire pandemic. So retail pharmacies didn't shut down. We gave a lot of shots during that time as well. But it's really rewarding to kind of be part of a community and talk to patients all day long and kind of see them grow and see their story change over time, which is really cool.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. I think that also sheds light on just like job security in general for careers in healthcare. The fact that you were still open during COVID, I think says a lot about the importance of pharmacists for sure.
For sure.
Thanks for sharing. And then Shweta, do you want to kind of continue on your day-to-day in your role right now?
Yeah, so currently as a medical student, each month you switch off to a different rotation. The beauty of that and being in fourth year is that you have more clinical electives and a little bit more freedom of what you want to do that's more tailored to what you're interested in your future career. So currently right now I'm working at a wound clinic with two amazing doctors at the local hospital in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is AHN St. Vincent. It's been very nice and very rewarding, you know, to give back to the community and learn so much about like the different pathology that can be there. But that would be the main goal as a medical student, just your first 2 years being preclinical, and then the third and fourth year focusing more on your clinical years and your guidance around the different fields offered in the healthcare.
And a sort of a follow-up question for you, more so out of just curiosity, but how have you or have you thought about what you might want to specialize in, or is that sort of where you're at with your clinical rotations right now and figuring out that path for your specialty?
Yeah, so currently still in the process of figuring out my pathway. And but I really do like the aspect of just being able to work with the community. And I think I definitely see myself in more primary care role, which is very exciting for me, and being able to apply that knowledge and hopefully apply it in the future in a broader sense is very nice.
Great. And then Alim, do you want to share a little bit about your day-to-day?
Sure. So I'm currently a physician associate at a small family medicine clinic in the Central Valley of California, as I said. Basically what that means is it's an outpatient clinic, so people will come in for specific appointments, either for specific complaints or for preventative care. When it comes to the specific complaints, it really can be pretty much anything. And so one of our jobs is to decide on the best treatment for them, whether or not it's going to be supportive without medication or anything like that. Or if they do need a medication, most physician associates do have the power to prescribe through the DEA. More information is needed for something like that, such as if it's blood work, imaging, or referral to a specialist, or even if they need to go to the emergency department, like they're having a heart attack or something like that. Um, in terms of the preventative care side, it's pretty nice. I feel like it's pretty important that, especially, as you get older, even 30 and up, people are really up to date on their labs. As they get older, they might need prostate cancer screening, or they might need colonoscopies and things of that sort. And so the physical appointments, I'm sure when you're a kid, you're kind of like, oh no, it's vaccine time. But at least for us, it's pretty important just to make sure that we don't miss anything and we do catch anything before, they would have to go to the emergency department or anything like that. And so it's pretty nice in the fact of it's both like holistic and also like pharmaceutical at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you all for sharing kind of those insights into your job. I think it's really important for both our students that have been admitted and for students that are looking into MCPHS or just careers in healthcare in general to kind of hear those specifics of what you all do in your day-to-day. I think certainly students sometimes say, I want to go into healthcare, but they don't necessarily know what that exact career or what that path is for them. So I think that those insights are super helpful. Something I also think is equally important for our students to hear is kind of how you landed these jobs, or so specifically for Kaitlin and Alim, can you talk about how you specifically got into your current job and how those opportunities kind of came up? Kaitlin, if you want to start, and then Alim, you can follow.
Sure. So as soon as I turned 18, as soon as you turn 18, you can work in a retail pharmacy. So I got a job as soon as I turned 18, which I'm on the younger side. So that was my freshman year of college. But I got a job as a pharmacy tech. And that was really the best decision I ever made, was to throw myself right into it, make sure it was what I wanted. If I didn't want retail, then I could, do it at a hospital. You can also get a job as a pharmacy tech at a hospital and kind of get your feet on the ground early. It's also really helped me to kind of start at the bottom and work my way up to kind of understand how the workflow works and be able to better assist my technicians now in whatever they need, because I was in their role at one point. So you kind of work your way up. So I started as a tech at 18, and then during third year pharmacy school, you can become a pharmacy intern. That's just the natural progression when you're a pharmacy student. And I applied for a corporate internship with Target when Target used to have their own pharmacy. And I was fortunate enough to get it. It's one student per district that gets that per year. So I did a corporate internship for 2 summers, and that kind of put me on a management track to be a pharmacy manager one day. But then unfortunately, it became CVS my last year of pharmacy school. So I didn't actually get to work for Target as a pharmacy when I got out of school because it became CVS. That was good too, because then I was able to help with a transition from one company to another, one software system to another. So that's kind of my path. And then once I got out of school, during 6th year, you get to interview for different companies. And I ended up landing with Target, staying there, working the Target CVS pathway, and then have since worked for a couple companies and landed at Walmart just because of location of where I live, and Walmart being, in my opinion, one of the better companies to work for.
Thanks for sharing. And then Alim, do you want to share as well?
Sure. So in terms of how I ended up in California, basically when I graduated, I knew that I wanted to go into family medicine. And I also knew that I didn't want to be in Boston anymore. Personally, I was born in Boston, raised in Boston, went to school in Boston. I was kind of Bostoned out for a bit. And so what I ended up doing was I got in touch with a number of recruiters. most recruiters, they can actually pick different areas and different specialties that you can work in. And so I basically explained that I didn't want to work in Boston. I was pretty willing to go anywhere, at the time, but I did want to service various different communities. And so what ended up happening was I got in touch with my current boss. She spoke to me for well over an hour, just talking about like what to expect, things of that sort. She told me to come down and visit. You know, bless her soul, because I took a good week and a half to 2 weeks to decide if I wanted to move across the country. Um, and then after visiting, I was there for about a week, and then I took another 2 weeks to decide. And I ended up deciding that this really was something that I wanted to do. One, because the community was, it's a majority farm worker community. It's kind of like Taylor Farms is actually one of the biggest farms here, or Taylor Farms, I think maybe biggest farm is here, plus Driscoll, which supplies a lot of berries and things of that sort. And being able to help out, being able to service the community here, truly it was a godsend of sorts to be able to come here and start my uh, start my career here, I would say. And so that's kind of how I ended up, at least here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great example too. I know that, sometimes we do get a lot of students from the Boston area. I'm also born and raised in Boston. So it's good to hear that you can still have access to those types of recruiters as well to kind of help you with that job placement. And totally understandable taking a couple of weeks to figure out if you wanted to move across the country for a job. But I think that's great. But sort of along the same vein of talking about location in Boston, a component of MCPHS that I often talk about with students and families that are interested in going into healthcare is just how important location is to where you decide where to enroll at a college or university. So, Shweta, if you could discuss a little bit about how our location in the city of Boston and specifically in the Longwood medical area, just how that kind of impacted your experience and your success in med school right now.
Yeah, so actually, I did the opposite transit. So I was born and raised in California, and I ended up in Boston. So something really important for me in that decision coming from West Coast and moving to East Coast, because it is such a big decision, is what the city has to offer and what the school has to offer. And I felt as if MCPHS, as well as just like the Longwood medical area, you can't really beat it. For me, I was able to work on campus, but I also worked at Beth Israel for some time as well. And I felt as if my time with working, as well as my volunteer activities as well, I was able to work with the mobile clinic. There's just so many opportunities around in the area. So there's something for literally everyone. And I think it was a very formative experience for me because it allowed me to understand what I was really interested in for healthcare and what I actually liked about it. And I felt as if that translated really well into today's time when I am on my clinical rotations, because I've learned from some of the best people in the nation and being able to translate those skills so well and seamlessly into my work, such as like communicative skills, as well as just thinking on my feet with just different cases from time to time, is something that really stood out from the area for me. And I just recommend anyone who's just wanting to look for a change and wanting to learn how to live in a city. It's a great city, it's a good size, and I think there's just so much for everyone here that you really can't go wrong.
100%. I totally agree. And for those of you who haven't been to Boston before, or specifically to the Longwood medical area, it really is like the healthcare hub of America. Like if you walk out of our campus doors and you could throw a rock and hit Boston Children's Hospital, and then Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Brigham and Women's, Beth Israel, Mass Gen, they're all right there as well. So just super great proximity. MCPHS has amazing relationships with these hospitals as well. So really great to kind of partner with the hospitals for students that are doing clinical rotations as part of their program, or even things like research experiences and internships as well. So kind of going off of that, Kaitlin, do you want to share a little bit of how the location impacted your career as well?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised in New Hampshire, in a very rural part. So for me, I'm an only child, very, very quiet. Me going to a big city, everyone was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing that for? Like, that's crazy. The quiet girl from school is going to a big city. It really was a no-brainer for me. One, because the school in and of itself is a very small school feel, but it's in a city. So you still get that very close community feel from the school itself, but you walk outside and it's a great big world and there's something for everybody, whether it be going to Red Sox games or you're not a sports fan, you're a foodie, there's food for you, there's shopping, there's something for everybody that's just fun, but also the hospitals are right there. And a lot of our professors come from those hospitals and they work at those hospitals. So we get the expert knowledge of not only working alongside them for rotations, but they also share their knowledge in the classroom with us. And I think that's a really special and unique thing to MCP that no other school that I looked at had.
I completely agree with you. It's great, especially for me on sort of like the staff side, just walking around and seeing all the faculty and knowing that they're really like the experts in their field as well. And I feel like that's what you really need when you're going into a healthcare profession. Like, you want to be taught by someone that's in the field and that has gone through the same schooling. They know what it's like. So I think that is great as well. Kind of along that same vein, Alim, could you talk about how the academics at MCPHS and sort of that environment of, being right in the Longwood medical area, your classes, kind of your resources on campus, how all of that really helped prepare you for your career as a PA?
Yeah, most definitely. At least especially at MCPHS, there were two really big things that I feel like really helped me along as I went into my career. Part of it is definitely the background knowledge and the knowledge of the professors. At least when I was in PA school, especially, almost every single professor for my specific classes worked in that specific field. Two really good examples is every single one of my pharmacology classes where we learned about drugs and things were actually taught by pharmacists in that specific career. So if we were doing psychiatry, they actually would bring one of the psych pharmacists from one of the local hospitals and they would teach us psych, they would create the questions and everything. So not only did we get knowledge that would help us for the exams, but also it was very practical knowledge, and it's knowledge that even to this day I now use and I talk to patients and I explain. The other really good example that I use is anatomy. So as when you get into PA school, you actually do gross anatomy. So you work on human cadavers, and the person who taught that class literally got their PhD in anatomy, which was something I quite literally didn't know existed until I got there. But just the amount of stuff, the amount of knowledge that she was able to provide, even questions that weren't always the most relevant at the time, like she knew the answer, she was able to explain it, and she was able to show it on the body. And if it wasn't shown on the body, she could dissect the body further to show us. And so, especially just the background knowledge and the information and the amount of practical knowledge too that a lot of the professors had, I think definitely I feel like I use almost day to day or at least weekly every day when I go to work.
That's great to hear. And thanks for providing those examples as well. I think that is super insightful. Shweta, do you want to also share about how the MCPHS academics really prepared you for med school?
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna go in the end for more of like the undergraduate portion because you covered more of the graduate portion. I felt as if with the undergraduate portion, something that's very unique to this campus that's very different from others is because we're a healthcare school, you almost finish most of your required like classes early in your first 2 years. So your third and fourth years are almost like very fun electives that are related to healthcare in some shape, way, form. So I can really relate to the fact that I took classes like immunology so early on, and I didn't have to fight with other people to get that kind of class, or even my classes, my core classes such as organic chemistry. And I think that's such a huge highlight of this campus, just because at other places that's something you might have to take a summer class for, versus here it's already preloaded into your schedule, which is very nice. I felt as if everyone on campus was super helpful. The professors are very passionate about their field, but are very passionate about your education in that field as well. So they very much immerse you into that experience. And beyond the professors, there's so much help on campus as well. There's students who are pre-chosen if they do very well in class to help teach lectures after the classes are over, if people just want a little bit more information on it to help us excel in those classes. So I feel as if there's a very much well-rounded education. And if there are some subjects you might be struggling with, there is someone out there that can help you, and there are resources that are available as well. So I think that was my most important factor that I saw with the education, is that you didn't have to fight for your classes, and there was always someone who was rooting for you to make sure you did well in your classes.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I think that that's a huge piece to consider, that not a lot of students sometimes think about, is that like class registration piece. Something that we do at MCP is we'll block register you for all of your required classes. So everything that's not an elective course, we're going to take care of for you. We're going to make sure, okay, Shweta's coming in as a first year student. She has to take, bio, chem, English, all of that. We register her for those classes. So we're going to make sure that you're on track, that, you're not going to be beat out by juniors or seniors. We do register you for those classes. So I think that that's nice, just to kind of keep you on track and keep you focused as a part of your curriculum, and preparing you either for, graduation, or preparing you for that next step in your professional journey. So I know you all kind of touched on this a little bit, just specifically about, resources at MCPHS, but Kaitlin, I'm going to point this question to you. If you could speak a little bit more about some of the, specific advantages that MCPHS gave you to help you be successful, whether that was like, certain resources on campus or offices, or anything that you were just like, this was really, really beneficial to me in my academic journey.
Yeah, so I am not the greatest of test takers, just in general. When it comes to standardized testing, I don't do very well. Doesn't mean that academically I'm not educated or smart. I just don't test very well. And one positive thing about MCP is they're test optional, and some of the testing that is required by other programs isn't necessarily required, or the test score doesn't have to be as high, because they value you as a well-rounded student. Because I was a 3-sport athlete, I was very involved in school, and I brought that to my admission counselor, and I was like, hey, I do all this stuff, I'm really good, here's my grades in my classes, but I just don't do well on standardized tests. And I will throw my hands up and say I don't. So her name was Sarah, and she was fabulous. And she was like, no worries, like, it's fine, it doesn't mean you're a bad student, like, don't stress about it. And that was one thing that really put me at ease when I was looking at schools, because I was afraid I wasn't going to get in for that reason. And I did fine. I graduated just like everybody else. And when I was on campus, there are so many tutoring opportunities. There's office hours with all the professors. They're all very accessible to you. And then there's students that are a year ahead of you, a year below you, and you kind of help each other when you're all in the same program. You're all in the same boat. You all want to be successful. So why not pass your notes down? Why not help somebody who's struggling in that class that you might have done well in? That's one positive thing about the MCP community that I learned when I was there. And also the peer tutoring was immensely helpful, especially in things like organic chemistry that can be a bit of a killer.
Oh, 100%. I'm just laughing because I work with a number of like the student ambassadors in our office, and when they're going through organic, chemistry 1 and 2, when they have their exams.
For sure.
But they all do great. They all utilize that peer tutoring and peer mentors, so they all make it through just fine. But thanks for sharing. And that's a great piece to think about when thinking about the application process for all of our prospective students, is the fact that we are test optional for both ACT and SATs. So if you are like Kaitlin and you're a little bit nervous about submitting a score, we're, as admission counselors, more than happy to kind of walk you through that process. But we are truly test optional, so your admissions will not be affected if you choose to set a score or if you choose to omit your score. So thanks for touching on that, Kaitlin. Going into my next question. So I'm going to put this to Alim and then Shweta, but could you guys talk about some of the key components you feel like you needed to be successful at MCPHS, or maybe if you could go back, any words of wisdom you would give to students, maybe in their undergrad or their professional phase of their programs, that you would impart to say, this is what's going to help you, this is how you'll be successful?
Yeah, at least when it comes to being a successful student and learning about different things, I think one of the most important things is to find out what kind of learner you are. A lot of people, they need to maybe watch it. They need to see someone do the problem. They need to see them figure it out. For other people, they need to hear something. For some people, they actually need to talk it out. And MCP does give you the opportunity, especially in your first couple of years. Pretty much every single lecture is recorded. And so if you need to watch the lecture again to really understand it, then that is an option. And then you, once again, then have the peer tutors who then can explain the concepts to you maybe in a different way. If maybe the professor writes things down more, but you want to hear someone talk it out more, then the peer tutor oftentimes will help you with that. And having that is extremely helpful, at least to me, especially as we go. And then the other thing is, it is a health science school. As Shweta was talking about before, a lot of people are taking the same first couple classes. And so even if someone isn't the same major as you, oftentimes they are in similar classes and you guys can work together to basically, maybe talk it out or maybe do something to that effect or anything like that. The other thing is that every single professor also has required office hours. And so if at any point in time you have a question and maybe you were too nervous to ask it in class, maybe you weren't thinking about it at the time, but as you looked over your notes, you were like, oh my goodness, like I really should have asked that. Then there are actually office hours that are almost always, there's a couple hours within the day that you would be able to, or that you wouldn't be in class and you're able to talk to them. And then the other nice thing about the office hours is oftentimes there's other people in your classes who are also there and you can oftentimes just sit in and maybe you didn't think of that question at the time or something like that. And so I always really encourage people to go to as many office hours as you can, because even if you only had one question or something like that, maybe someone else came and they had a question that you weren't even thinking about. And so just really using the resources that MCPHS gives you, which honestly is a ton of them, is for me one of the biggest things to at least my success there.
Absolutely. Thanks for touching on all of those. I think it's important for students to hear that as well. I feel like a parent sometimes where, you say something over and over and over again, but you're like, no, you need to actually like use your resources. Like they're there for you. They're helpful. So thanks for sharing that, Alim. And then Shweta, do you want to shed some light as well on what you think makes a successful MCPHS student?
Yes, of course. So I agree with everything that he's saying, especially with the part of like utilizing the resources. I think people are maybe afraid, maybe from prior experiences that were like, oh no, I had a teacher to do this. I promise you it's not like that here. They're so friendly. They even tell you in like syllabus week being like, we don't bite, come into our office, like it's important. They want to see you succeed. They want you to reach like your fullest potential. So I really appreciate that out of the campus. I really saw that like as I was shaped throughout my 4 years. I think one other piece of advice I want to add as well is just enjoy the journey. I mean, like healthcare is so exciting and there's so many avenues within it. Enjoy what you're learning at the time. There's so many courses, there's so many things and so many opportunities and activities to do in the area that are related to healthcare or even just exploring the city itself. It's important to take advantage of that time that's available and the opportunities and resources available around you. I highly recommend, being involved in the hospitals in the area, because when you look back one day, you're going to be like, wow, I was able to work at one of the top hospitals in the nation. And that's something you can hold with pride. And when it comes to your education, make sure, you're doing it because you really want to do it. I feel as if, like after your couple of years, your third and fourth year, when you do your electives, do the ones that stick out to you and the ones that are most fun for you, because that's when you're going to enjoy your time the most and be able to learn and love the way medicine is. So
I think this is a fantastic answer. Thank you so much for sharing that. So as we're sort of, wrapping up our conversation here, and thank you all again for being here and kind of, shedding insight onto all of your careers and progression through MCP. My last question for you all that I'm going to pose to everyone, we can start with Kaitlin, is what was that decision or maybe spark that made you want to go into healthcare in the first place? Maybe it was a moment, or maybe you grew up in a family in healthcare. But can you talk a little bit about why you chose the healthcare field specifically?
Yeah, so I grew up being a lot sicker than most kids and not really understanding why. I ended up having an immune deficiency that's kind of rare. So I learned pretty early on about immunology, antibiotics, medicine, just in general, just from being a patient. And it interested me, and we'd always have to go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacists that I talked to were always very bubbly and very excited and very interactive with me as a child. So that kind of piqued my interest when I was very young. Then as I got older, I always have kind of a motherly tendency. So I'm always like, hey, are you feeling okay? Did you take medicine? Did you do this? What did you take? Like, that was just always my personality growing up. So they always called me like Dr. Mom when I was growing up. And I feel like that's what I do now as a pharmacist. People will come up to my consultation counter and be like, hey, I have this cough. It won't go away. Can you help me? Or someone comes in with burns from doing paving work. How do you help them? How do you treat them? Everything's different. It all comes at you at a very fast pace. And I feel like all of my experiences growing up just brought me to where I am now. And then I job shadowed. When I was in high school, I was between being a veterinarian, a physical therapist, or a pharmacist, and I did a job shadow in each area, and that helped tip the scale for me. So that was very important to my growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned that specifically about doing a job shadow. I think that is like invaluable advice for students specifically, in high school, or maybe if you are wanting to enter, the medical field later in life, whatever your journey looks like, having that opportunity to kind of, see on a day-to-day basis what you're going to be doing is super, super helpful. All right, let's go to Alim next. What made you want to work in the healthcare field?
Yeah, so for me, I actually do come from a background of a lot of family members in medicine. My mother's a nurse and my father was an MA for pretty much most of their lives. And I was pretty sure by the time I came to college that I wanted to go into healthcare, but I knew with a pre-med degree, there were still a lot of different avenues to go. I actually entered as a pre-med PA student, so that opportunity would still be there. And then I believe it's in the second year of, schooling, you do a class that basically is prerequisite to start applying for the PA school so that you can apply a year early. And during that class, I had the opportunity to once again really use the resources of Boston. I was able to do a lot of shadowing and looking around at Boston Children's Hospital. I was able to go to MGH. I was able to go to the Shattuck Hospital in Jamaica Plain, and I saw a number of different professions. I saw respiratory therapists at the time. I saw cardiothoracic surgeons at the time. I saw PAs at the time. I saw nurses. I got to see all of the professions, and I got to actually follow them for their day-to-day. And when it came to PAs, what really interested me was the fact that there were oftentimes a lot of times where she really got to sit down and basically just discuss the treatments. This is what we plan on doing. This is what we plan on giving to you. This is what you should expect. Do you have any questions? Is there anything that you're specifically nervous about, why you wouldn't want to go through it? And these will be the next steps. And being able to see that, being able to see the amount of knowledge that the PA had, and also simultaneously having enough time to really sit down with the patient so that they understood their medicine as well as, the healthcare professional. I found that to be really inspirational personally, and I feel like it solidified my want to complete the program and keep going. And so that was my personal journey on why I decided I wanted to go into PA school.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that journey. I know it can look a little bit different for everyone, so really great that you had those opportunities to shadow as well, and kind of check out all the different careers. All right, Shweta, do you want to finish us off and share why you wanted to go into healthcare?
Yes, of course. So, for me, as a kid, I mean, I didn't really know. And like, I think I come from, my mom and my sister are pharmacists. My sister actually graduated from MCPHS, so I'm part of an MCPHS family. But I think for me, and my dad's an engineer, so it was one of those things where I was exposed to healthcare early on, but I also had this interest with engineering as well. I ended up volunteering at a hospital during high school, and I just loved being at the hospital. There was something about it. I loved seeing the type of conditions that were coming in and the people I was meeting and the way I was interacting with them. There's just something that stuck out about it. I didn't know what exactly, but I knew there was something that like fit and the personality was emerging well. And actually talking to one of the MCPHS reps, Alan, he very much, we talked together and, came to this decision of, hey, you know what? You apply to certain schools, but there's something about it. Just applied to this program, and it was the pre-med DO program, so the early acceptance program through LECOM. And I think it was during my time at MCPHS, I was able to develop more of why healthcare. And I think that specific reason came down to this idea of I love being in the community and helping the community in a way of helping with their healthcare. I think the biggest part is that I love the idea of being like the frontline person, because there's a lot of people who can be shied away from receiving care that could be very beneficial to their life. And I just want to be an advocate for their care and what their abilities are, and to help them with their lives so they can be very much present in what's going on in their lives. So I think that was something that really stuck out to me, and that was very much something present from my opportunities volunteering in the community and helping with the mobile clinic. So I would say that's my reason in healthcare. It was a little bit more longer than others, but I think it was what led me to the ultimate path, and I'm very happy about it.
Absolutely. And thanks for sharing. And, I hope that everyone watching today can really glean or take away that everyone's path is a little bit different. Not everyone's path is linear. Your path is your path. However, you choose to get into healthcare is your journey. So I want to thank the three of you so much, Shweta, Alim, and Kaitlin. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today for the MCPHS Alumni panel. We're so proud and excited for you and your healthcare journeys. And again, for all of our recently admitted students, just want to say congratulations. We hope to see you on campus soon for an Admitted Students Day. And for all of our students that might be checking out MCPHS for the first time, we hope you come to visit us. If you have any questions at all about any of our programs or the application process, the financial aid process, please do not hesitate to reach out to any of us here in the admissions office. But thank you all again for a wonderful panel, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.